Do you think Etsy's still worth it in 2025?
Absolutely. I really do. People ask or people say all the time it's too saturated, but in my eyes, it's not with the amount of products and different aesthetics and different trends that can be combined in different niches. It's pretty much like limitless the amount of type of different products that you could be putting up. So I find that it's really worth it. I have a lot of people that have been wanting to get started for like months now. I just put up a post the other day and I said something about like suspect said that they wanted to start their Etsy shop in January. It's March. Well, now it's April probably when this post, but so many
Mm.
people were like, you called me out. I've been wanting to start. And I'm like, what are you waiting for? Like now is the time. Like if you're watching this right now, then clearly you want to start this or you're already in it. Don't let it be like 2030 and you're saying, I wish I got started in 2025, because by then maybe it will be too late. Probably not. There's room for everyone at the table, but don't let that be you. The time will pass anyway. So I always tell people it's not too late to get started and the time is now.
The sooner that you start, the better with everything,
Yeah.
right? But saturation, I hear that word being thrown around a lot as well. And it is also a sign of demand, right?
Yeah.
If there wasn't any demand, there'd be nobody doing it.
Yeah.
So, and the market is constantly changing. Like you said, there's trends and like new designs start to pop up. So yeah, the potential is definitely huge. Is there more people selling than there was like 10 years ago? For sure. But
Yes.
back then, it was the same. Like people were saying, it's too saturated, it's too late to get started.
Yeah.
And still people did and are successful now. So how and why did you get started with this?
So I was actually a teacher for 8 years and it was my passion in the beginning, but I just started to feel really burnt out from it, especially once I had my first child. I like would come home every day and not have enough energy for myself or my family. And that was taxing. And I just thought like there's got to be a better way to life than to like be too tired for my family. It just didn't, I just kind of fell out of alignment with it. So it was tough to recognize that, but at the same time, I was like, I have to choose myself and my family. There's got to be another way. And around the same time, my husband and I wanted to move to Greece. We were living in the States. We wanted to move to Greece because my husband has family from here. We would visit. We loved coming here, never wanted to leave. So around that same time is when I said, if we can find a way to make money online, I will move to Greece. If I move to Greece, I don't want to have a job, like a physical job, 9 to 5. And I also wanted to make enough money to be able to fly home whenever I wanted to like visit family. So that was like a big why, but that's
Mm.
kind of like what I initially like why I initially started seeking out making money online. And I tried a bunch of different side hustles and I failed at many. I was like decent at some. But when I stumbled across Etsy and print on demand, it was like it was the easiest one for me to get started in. It was like beginner friendly. I feel like it's like the preschool of like other platforms and other online businesses. It's just very beginner and user friendly. So I started that and became successful pretty quickly with it. And 1 year from starting, I was able to quit my teaching position. And then the following year, I was able to move to Greece, and that's where we are now. So that's basically how and why.
That's amazing. That's really quick success. Kind
Yeah.
of to give a bit of an idea as well. Like most
Yes.
people, they don't see like within a few months making a lot of money. It does take
Right.
its time. I think 1 year is very respectable. That you'd be able to quit your job that quickly. So that's awesome.
For sure. And I will say, I don't want to make it sound like it was super easy because it wasn't. I spent so many hours, like probably unhealthy hours, working in my Etsy shop because I wanted that why so badly. And I just wanted to be home with my daughter. And I was like, by the time I have my next baby, I definitely do not want to be teaching anymore. I just had really big whys. And whenever I got a chance to work in my shop, I worked like you sacrifice friendships and unfortunately, and like events sometimes. And I probably did like more than I should have, but it got me to where I needed to be like very quickly. I don't know if you've ever seen that saying, like disappear for 6 months and see what can happen to your life. That's basically what I did for a year and it worked. So I don't want to say like it was easy or I was lucky. It was a lot of hard work and hours and sacrifices.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that as well, because some people might look at that and say, you're being crazy, you're doing way too much, you're overworking yourself.
Right.
I think the sad reality, though, is for most people starting out on a new business venture or on their first online business, it's like that's the only advantage that you have. You probably don't have a lot of money to invest.
Yeah.
All you have is time and like the grind. You can later on, once you've kind of leveled up a bit, that's when you can spend less time, maybe outsource some of the work. But at the beginning, you have to really put in the hours and work hard. That's kind of your only advantage in most cases anyway. I'm just curious, what were you teaching? Like, is there anything that drew you to Print on Demand? Like, were you an art teacher or anything else?
I was a kindergarten teacher. So I taught like 5 and 6-year-olds. And like really it's interesting, what started was I always wanted to write a children's book. And I learned about Amazon KDP and I was like, wow, that's amazing. I think I can easily make a children's book. And I did. And I put it on Amazon KDP. And the only sales I made were from family and friends, but I made like 100 sales. It was pretty cool.
Wow.
But while I was researching how to like, optimize my KDP listing and how to maybe advertise it, I was searching on YouTube and for that information, and an advertisement came up in one of the videos, and it was somebody talking about Etsy and print on demand and like selling t-shirts without ever touching them. And I was like, what? And like I said earlier, I've tried so many different side hustles. And when I heard that, I was like, that sounds really cool and like pretty easy to do. So I'm like a squirrel when it comes to hearing like new businesses. And I immediately jumped into it that night, and it was just like meant to be. And I kind of forgot about my book and just went on with Etsy.
Speaking of t-shirts there, what, because we haven't spoken about what you sell yet, really, what are some of your best sellers in terms of products that start out with the products that you sell?
So it's funny, I started with t-shirts and I was only doing t-shirts. And then I started taking the best-selling designs that were on my t-shirts and putting them on sweatshirts. And now sweatshirts are actually my biggest sellers year round, believe it or not. So most of my best sellers are sweatshirts, and like my process before was to put a design on a t-shirt, and if it sold well, then I'd put it on a sweatshirt. Now I automatically put it on a sweatshirt because that's most of the time what my best sellers are.
It's interesting. I think Cassie said that to me as well in our podcast. She said, sell out of sweatshirts all year round. It doesn't have to be just winter. Are there, besides sweatshirts though, are there any other kind of categories that you sell in?
I do. So t-shirts, sweatshirts, mugs, tote bags. And then I like to play around and experiment with other products as well. Like I'm testing other things like blankets and the glass tumblers. But my main biggest seller is that when I sit down to work and I'm like consistently putting things up, it's t-shirts and sweatshirts and mugs. And then if like I get a best-selling design, then I'll put it on a tote bag. Like I won't just like put a tote bag up. I wait till I get a best-selling design, and then I put that best-selling design on other products and try to scale my shops that way.
Nice. So you do still focus on what works the most, but you occasionally like test new areas once you've seen success with that. What in terms of like designs, do you have any commonalities amongst the designs? Maybe is it more trends? Is it more evergreen? Certain styles that work for you?
So I try my best to, business is about serving others. So I try my best to like follow what's in demand at that time, like always keep my eye on new font styles, new aesthetics, and try to follow the trends that way. So like whenever I see something coming up, for example, like the coquette niche, like a year ago when I saw that coming up, I jumped on it, and like any niche I could think of, I combined with coquette, like teacher coquette niche. If you don't know what coquette is, it's like pink bows. I'm sure you do, but our listeners, it's like like pink bows, baby blue,
Ribbons.
a lot of this is coquette, probably. Yeah, ribbons and stuff. And I just combined that with every niche that I could think of. Right now I don't know if I'm going to say it right, chinoiserie is in. I don't know if you know about chinoiserie. I
I
don't know if
don't.
I'm saying, I made a YouTube video on it recently and people were like telling me I was pronouncing it wrong. So sorry. But
What's that
it's
about?
like blue and white, like florally aesthetic. So I
Uh-huh.
just try to like keep an eye on the trends and match different niches with that. And then I will say what's interesting though, I don't know if I mentioned this to you before, but my husband also has an Etsy shop. He learned from me.
Yeah.
But we do things differently. Most of his shirts are text-based designs and it's just simple. Like we always say simple sells. It'll just be like a white, bold text and it sells. So like he's never really been into like graphic designing, or I'm trying to get him into like AI design now and stuff, but he just likes to stick to it because that's what's selling for him. So
It sounds like the complete opposite of your shop. Like obviously still simple designs, I'm guessing, but more
yeah,
like the Etsy aesthetic of like
mine is
more
very
feminine.
colorful and then his is
Yeah.
just very plain, but it works for both of us.
I'm guessing he's selling like funny phrases and
Yeah, a lot of mostly
sarcasm.
funny shirts. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what tends to work quite well, I think, with those kind of simplistic, just
Yeah.
text-based designs. But yeah, if you say you've found or spotted that trend, the bow trend, coquette trend, like a year ago, sounds like you found that quite early because now it's everywhere. Like I
Yeah.
can tell, like the bows, not just Etsy but Amazon, that they're
Yes.
overflowing with it now. So I'm curious how you kind of find those trends before they become the
Yeah.
mainstream and everyone's already done it, sort of thing.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's pretty simple, actually. It's basically just like having like, I just feel like it's always on in my brain to be looking for things out and about in real life, but also on social media. So I found like scrolling through TikTok, it's like my brain calculates when I see something more than once and I'm
Mhm.
like, keep my eye on it. So like a lot of times for my For You page on TikTok, like just like things that people are wearing or they might be like talking about, or like Pinterest is a good indicator, and even Instagram. So just basically having an eye for new things that you haven't really seen yet, or like what's out in the stores right now. So yeah, it's like nothing like crazy. There's no like database that I'm going through. It's just basically like living my life and being open
Mhm.
and recognizing new patterns or new fonts or new graphics, like cherries are in right now and the coquette bows and the chinoiserie, just like if you go, people in the States, they have like Home Goods is a store that a lot of people go to. You can walk around there and you'll get a lot of ideas there. There's different, stores that you can go into and just browse and get ideas from.
I think that's also part of the many reasons why it takes a while to get going in the beginning. Is because, like, to you or me, it will seem obvious if there's a new pattern that develops
Yeah.
of like cherries are really popular. But
Mhm.
if you get into this, I'm just imagining all of these designs are new to you. You don't know like what's the new pattern that's
Yeah.
emerged. So it takes a while to kind of get familiar with what's already out there, what's selling, and then to spot like, hey, I've not seen that before, and I've seen it again now and again. So that takes time to develop unless you have someone at hand that's like a close mentor who's already been in the business for a few years. But yeah, it
Sure.
sounds like you're very active on social media platforms or you look out in shops when you're out and about and you try to spot patterns right off new things.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fun.
Do you have any tips for stay-at-home parents then? Because that's obviously one of the main reasons why I did this.
For sure. Basically, it's just learning to work within the pockets of your time. Early mornings, late nights, nap times. Um, it's hard because you're going to be tired. You're tired in the early morning. You finally get your kids to bed and you just want to relax. But if you want to be successful in this the first year, you have to grind it out, and you're gonna maybe even the first 2 years. Luckily for me, it was like the first year that I really had to grind it out and do early mornings and late nights and nap times and pockets of my time. And just know that it's temporary. If you can push through and find success in this, like now I'm only working about a half hour to 40 minutes a day, most days. And it's really easy. Whereas before I had to work just like any moment that I got. So just know that the hard times right now it's temporary.
Yeah, I think that's very important to understand for people getting into this. Like almost everyone I've spoken to who's managed to get a certain level of sales or managed to quit their job with this, it's like putting in a lot of hours at the beginning, and now that time input's got a lot less.
Yeah.
But thanks to the kind of passive nature of the sales, once you've built some momentum up, you can take back the time. And like I said, then your advantage is the knowledge that you have already built and the skills. Whereas at the beginning, you have to kind of grind because you haven't got that knowledge yet. So I would also say like lean into perhaps, right, I don't have kids, so I can't really say, but lean into whether you're an early bird or a night owl, like lean into that. You don't have to follow the advice of, you have to get up at 4 a.m. to be successful. Right. If you're a night owl, do it once your kids are in bed, right? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's good. I was just like I said, I overworked myself the first year. So I was like, any time that I could get, it was crazy. Like I would get 3 hours of sleep some nights that first year. Wow. But you know what? I loved doing it. I loved it. Like my husband still talks about this one time. It was like 3 a.m. and he heard music downstairs and he came down and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like listening to club music and like designing. And I was like, I want to go to Greece and I want to quit my job. And like, I just was holding that vision and just like feeling good and having fun with it. So like I had to like tell myself to go to bed. So that's the other thing too. Like, just hold your vision and get excited for what you're working towards. And probably it's, a big part of it is for your kids. You want to spend more time with your kids, or you want to make some extra money to go on that fun vacation with your family. Like maybe it's not even to like quit your job, or maybe, you're maybe making some extra money just to go on that really fun vacation and make memories with your family. Like get excited about what you're working towards. The first thing is like, what is your why? What is your reason for doing this? And make it a big one and one that excites you. And when you don't feel like working, think about that. That's what always helped me. Are there any other important sort of mindset shifts that have helped you out on your journey a lot that we haven't mentioned yet? So kind of ties in with that, working in pockets of your time and stuff is, I always say to follow the plan, not your mood. So you might wake up one day and not feel like working in your Etsy shop, but like, we're not going to listen to our mood. We're going to follow the plan. The plan is to work in our Etsy shop so that we can quit our job, or to build our online business so that we can get that family vacation. That's the plan. And save the days for when you wake up like actually sick, or you wake up and you have your kid's birthday party and you're going to disconnect from online all day and, really take it in these nice moments in with your family. Save those days to take off. But if you wake up and you're just like not in the mood to do it, like, no, like follow the plan. And this is for just people that are like trying to find that success quickly and trying to reach that goal quickly. If you're just doing this for fun, then that's totally fine. But the people that want to find success, like the quickest, consistency is key. And like being kind of hard on yourself is what's going to get you there the fastest. And I think you outpace a lot of competition that way, because everyone has those days, right, where they don't want to do. So like I have days where I don't want to record a video, or days where I don't want to design stuff. And I think a lot of people, they give into that very easily, because unfortunately, it is very easy to give into that with, all the distractions we have out there, social media, streaming apps, whatever it may be. So every day that you kind of overcome that feeling of, I really can't be bothered, and you just get going, at least if you just do 5 minutes and get the ball rolling, that is going to take you past like 90% of people that just say, I'll just play a video game today instead. Exactly. Yeah. Like even if you just tell yourself it's 5, 10 minutes, I bet you'll get in the zone and it'll be as long as you can.
Yeah, getting started is the hardest part usually.
Mhm.
Getting going is easier. I think to shift gears a little bit, one thing that a lot of people also struggle with if they get into this and they're new, is actually standing out amongst the competition on Etsy. Because if you found a trend and you want to try it out, like how do you make sure your listing actually looks good amongst all the other sellers?
So there's a couple different ways. Like definitely think about cross niching. So, and what I was talking about earlier, like the coquette and chinoiserie. And I don't want to stress anyone out about finding these trends or anything. You can easily go onto YouTube and just type in like top Etsy print on demand trends. And I guarantee you, one of us has a video out there for you to watch about a recent trend. Like we're doing the research for you. So don't stress yourself out if you're not like seeing it yourself. But I think it's important these days because we talked about saturation earlier. You know, most of the time now you can't just like put the word teach on a shirt. I mean, it does happen, but you can't just put the word teach on a shirt and think it's going to take off, you know, most of the time. Sometimes you see bestsellers like that, but you have to get, you know, I think it's important to cross niche or like use a niche with a trending aesthetic like the coquette niche. So say like if you jumped on the coquette niche in the beginning and you did a shirt that said teach, but it had like a cute bow print, that's going to take off. So it's like jumping on the trends as soon as you see them definitely helps. But then another thing is go through a niche that you're interested in or researching and take a look to see what's needed or what's missing. Say we're like browsing through nurse coquette shirts and you notice that there's no sweatshirts with sleeve prints. I guarantee you, like if you're the first person to do like a nurse coquette sleeve print sweatshirt, it's going to be a bestseller. So it's just trying to browse through and take the time to like, you know, really think about what's needed, what's missing, what can I add to this that other sellers aren't doing. And then another easy thing is just like making sure that you have a high quality mock-up photo. I like to just purchase mine from Etsy, to be honest. I just go to Etsy and I type in the search like Gildan 18,000 Ash and sweatshirt mock-up, and I'll find one that way.
How do you know which one is high quality though? That's the question.
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. See, sometimes I feel like I do just have an eye for certain things, but well, you can kind of, some of them will be bestsellers, the mock-ups on Etsy. So like that's kind of tells you that a lot of other sellers are using them, which is like good and not good at the same time. But that's a good indicator by seeing like the mock-ups that have the bestseller badge or the popular now badge.
Yeah, I think that's definitely good practice because they're validated, right? And then you can try, yes, sure, you will have the same mock-up as some people, but you can stand out with your design. And getting back to that point you were trying to make, I think it was, don't just copy what's already out there. Try and find like new ways to approach the niche or add value to the niche. Another example I could name is like the UFO style. I don't know if it's been as popular on Etsy. It's more of an Amazon thing, but it's like animals taking selfies with UFOs in the background has been like a popular thing on Amazon for some reason. And when that started, I think it was a design with cats and it was one with raccoons or something like that. But if you spot that sort of trend early, you can say, maybe I'll do that with other animals. Maybe I'll do it with, you can do it with like a T-Rex, like silly stuff, or maybe with Santa for Christmas. You know, there's so many different ways you could spin that. Even political niches probably work with it, you know. Bigfoot, I've seen a lot of Bigfoot ones now. So that's, I think, where a lot of people go wrong is they find a trend and then it's like, oh, let's use the same mock-up, let's make the same design. Right. And then you're already behind in the race.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
I always say like, don't do that because one, it's not right. And two, you're competing with a bestseller. So you're not going to succeed that way, you know? But yeah, like you said too, you can always, you know, you could also find something that's selling really well. Like say you just used an example of graphics with the UFOs, but say we found a saying that's doing really well. and say it's just, a big, bold white font, maybe you can do a similar saying, but with a different type of font aesthetic or a different type of font trend. Like a lot of times when I have a best-selling design, I take that design and I think, how can I make this in a retro aesthetic? Or how can I make this, you think of different aesthetics that, because not everybody's going to want to wear like the bright color, pastel-y color shirts. Maybe they want it in a retro distressed look, so take a look at your best-selling designs and other people's best-selling designs and think if you can make it in other aesthetics to where it's like different and it's original in your own way.
I get a feeling you've got a good like feedback loop created there with your husband, because he's got like the basic style, and if he finds a good phrase, then you're like, let's recreate that in my style. Right? I'm sure you've done that before, because not everyone wants a plain white font on their top, right? Do you think that ads are necessary for success on Etsy?
Actually, I don't run ads. So I've dabbled in them before, but I don't run Etsy ads. Well, Etsy does the offsite ads, because once you make over like $10,000, I think they just do it for you. But I don't personally run my own ads. I always suggest for people that do want to run ads though, and I'm not an ad professional, so so take what you will, but I do always suggest, so that you don't lose money running ads, because you definitely can. By the way, my parents have an Etsy shop. Hi, Mom and Dad. And they lost a lot of money running ads their first year. They didn't realize they were running ads on like all of their listings, and a couple months went by and they lost like $3,000 from ads.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So I don't want you to be like that. So my suggestion is, at least for Etsy ads, don't run an ad on a listing unless it's made sales organically on its own. Because if it made sales on its own, then one, you have a good design, you're in a good niche, you have good SEO, your titles and tags, because people are finding it, right? So by putting an ad on it, it's like fueling the fire, and Etsy's going to push it out to more of the right people. If you have an Etsy listing that's never made a sale, there could be a number of reasons why. It could be not a good design, it could not be in demand, or maybe it is those two things, but you have bad SEO, bad titles and tags. So if you put an ad spend on that, Etsy's going to push it out to the wrong group of people, and you're going to waste a lot of money. So that's how I view it. I don't know if that's correct, but that's that's how I've always viewed it.
I think especially if you're getting started, you can waste a lot of money because, your mock-ups might not be up to scratch yet, your designs, your phrases, SEO. There's a lot of variables that you might not have done correctly yet, or maybe your listing isn't really competing well enough to be pushed with ads effectively. So it makes sense to wait for some organic validation. Is there any specific reason why you don't run them? You've tested them in the past, right?
Yeah, I don't, I just didn't feel like taking the time to like go back and like analyze everything. And I don't know, it's just something I never really got into. They definitely worked when I ran them, but you got to kind of keep on top of it and see which ones are working, which ones aren't. And I just, at this time in my life, don't have the time to be doing that.
I think that's good to know, because you can kind of look at this business model and assume I have to become an expert at like X, Y, Z, all of these different things. But if you're really good at design, lean into that, right? You don't have to completely master ads. I have a similar approach on Amazon. I do run ads, but they're fairly hands off. Like I don't want to be in there every day and managing bids and, hyper analyzing everything. Some people, they love that and that's their thing. And that's what they lean into, which is great for them. But it's just not for me. So it can work both ways. And Jenny is another example of that. So you don't have to understand ads if you absolutely hate that. Do you have any advice for people to speed up their workflow? Because there's many different paths with an Etsy shop. Like, is there any tools or anything else that you've found?
So basically, one is just, again, to like work in the pockets of your time if you're like a busy person. And then just also like another simple way is to just always know what you're going to sit down and work on ahead of time. So if I have a block of time where I'm working on something, to when I'm getting up, I type in my notes on my phone, or you could just jot it down somewhere, where you left off and what you're going to start on next. It takes you 2 seconds to do that, so that the next time you sit down to work, you don't have to waste your time thinking like, what was I doing? What do I have to do next? You just know right away because you're looking. Like if you're like me, when I started and was a full-time teacher and I was a mom, like my brain could not remember what I was working on like 10 minutes prior, So just kind of staying organized like that will save you a lot of time. And then I also like to have like a day where I just do my research and see, get an idea for what I'm going to design. And then I like a day where I'm just designing, because you get into like that flow state. And then I like a day where I'm listing. So I batch things and that moves much quicker. And then as far as tools, I will shout out Cassie right now with her new software, Simply Listed. It's a game changer to get mockups done very, very quickly. You guys have to try it out. It's synced up with Printify as well. So that saves a lot of time, because, on my batch days where I have designs, it used to take me hours to pull those designs onto my own mockups, but now Simply Listed does it in a matter of seconds. So I wish I had that tool when I was first starting out. It would have saved me a lot of time.
And that works with the same process of like finding a mockup on Etsy, downloading that, and then just generating it kind of in bulk rather than having to do it one at a time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nice. It does seem to me like you do have a little bit of like shiny object syndrome as well. You said you get a lot of ideas and you have to focus on one thing at a time. Yeah. Do you have, because I feel like a lot of people watching can probably resonate with that. Do you have any tips to kind of fight that? I know you kind of gave some already, but is there anything else?
Yeah. So my main saying that I have to tell myself all the time. So it's so hard, actually. This saying is like tricky. My saying that I say to myself is follow the money. So like whatever is making you the most money at that time, like just follow that. I need to take my own advice, because I've started so many other like side things, but I think especially as a beginner, it's important to focus on one thing. And once you get good at that thing, then you can branch off onto other things, And I really think print on demand is one of the easiest, like beginner friendly businesses to get into, whether it's Etsy or Amazon, or I think Shopify is a little bit harder, but that's just my opinion. But I think print on demand in general is a really good starting point.
Why do you think that? You've said that a few times now. What's some of the reasons for that?
And maybe that's just me personally, but compared to any of the other side hustles that I've tried, it was the easiest, and I found success in it the fastest. But maybe that's just me. Like, I don't know. But I just feel like it was the most beginner friendly, at least for Etsy too. I feel like Etsy is like a beginner friendly platform to start an online business with.
I think it definitely helps that it's fairly low investment, right? As long as you've got internet, you've got a computer. Yeah. I know Etsy, the listings cost a little bit, but for the majority of the business, you don't really have to pay a lot up front in order to get a chance to actually make money back. Right. I think that's definitely a good bonus. And there's also a lot of communities out there, a lot of content online to help you out. So there's a lot of free advice that you can get access to on day one, which is helpful. Although that's another thing I would kind of give as beginner advice is like, don't try and watch every single YouTuber and follow all of their advice. Like focus on a few that you resonate with or that you like the most. Yes. And try and not get like lost in the sea of advice, because everyone uses different tools and has a different story and different talent coming into it. So
and just like try not to overcomplicate it, because it can be, with all the creators out there, teaching it and the different ways, like you can get, it can feel like a tornado in your mind. Like, well, which way should I do it? Just like test a few things yourself and don't overcomplicate things. And like Philip said, just follow a few people and kind of just follow their lead, because we all are successful in our own different ways. So if you, test different things, you find what works for you and follow that.
Yeah, and keep doubling down on what works.
Mm-hmm.
Follow the money. I like that idea.
Yeah.
And I think for a beginner, that means even if you've made like 10 sales in this business model that you've tried now, follow that, right? You have some validation. If you can make 10, you can probably make 100.
Absolutely.
And so on. And then once you are able to quit your job, for example, that's when it's, I think, also important to remember, focus on what's working, because that's when it starts getting perhaps a bit stale, or you take it for granted and you're like, oh, let's try all these other things as well now that I've got more time. That's kind of, I think, the next step of focus you need to get on is like, I think that's what you were kind of saying with follow the money, like don't get distracted from the thing that's already working.
Yeah, for sure. And like, if you want to take it somewhere else, like say you're finding some success, my first suggestion to like hop onto another platform or side hustle, like take your best sellers from Etsy and put them on Amazon merch, and chances are they'll sell there too. Or like, if you're confident enough to start a Shopify shop, do that. Take your best sellers from whichever platform you're starting on and try them on these other platforms as well, and like kind of double your money that way.
Yeah, because it's more seamless, right? Probably a better idea than trying to write a book and start a KDP business. There's a lot more friction to that, or a lot more things to learn. So try and stay kind of in the lane where you have some leverage already, and focus on that. Yeah, do you think there's any other things that we haven't mentioned yet that we should talk about? We haven't really talked about listings much, listing SEO. Do you have any tips for that for Etsy?
I mostly just use Everbee. It's a Etsy research tool, and it helps, find keywords and help you with your titles and tags optimization. So that's mostly what I use. It's not, yeah.
Is there anything specific you look for, like a certain score or something, or?
I like to mostly browse, like I'll research a specific niche, and then I use the product analytics tool to that. And I like to see which ones are making the most sales and how long the listing has been up. And I kind of gather, I do product research this way sometimes to see like which types of products or niches are selling at this time. I find that very helpful. So nice.
I think we've covered a lot of things there. That was a lot of interesting insight. So thanks for sharing with us, Jenny. And where can people learn more from you? If this is the first time hearing about you, where can they find you?
So on YouTube, Jenny from the Shopp with 2 P's at the end. And then also on TikTok, Jenny from the Shopp, and Instagram, it's Jenny from the Shopp.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. I'll have the links to that in the description to all of those, because I think there's another Jenny from the Shopp as well, right? So
really?
we don't want people to get confused. Yeah, I've searched your channel before and landed on someone else's. It's like, what? This doesn't look like Jenny.
Well, I do have a lot of people like copying my, like impersonating me right now. I don't know if it looked like me or not, but yeah.
I didn't look that far into it, but well, the links will be down below in case you struggle to find it. And appreciate you coming on. Thanks a lot for your time and sharing your advice.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.